Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 27 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see. We were down at Light Up Ocala, and a young man came up to me, and he said, are you a registered voter? And I said, yes. And he said, would you sign a petition to say we would like to have an amendment on the ballot in November? And fill in the blank of what the amendment was, because what I just told you was a generic way of telling you something. Because I've had people asking me to sign a petition to put an amendment on the ballot for marijuana use, for raising the minimum wage. I can't even think of all the things I've had. And I guess that's the way it's done. I guess you go to crowded circumstances, and those are the things we do here at a radio station. We always at places that seem to have lots of people. And somebody will walk up, and I guess they just get lots and lots of signatures by doing that. And I guess those signatures are what is necessary to put something on the an amendment on the ballot. What I've never understood, and this is my opportunity to learn right now, is I've never understood, like, why is it an amendment in the Florida Constitution? Why isn't it just a bill? Why isn't it just a law? And what exactly is the difference? Michael J. Higer is an attorney. He's on the phone. He's an alumni of the University of Florida. And in fact, we had this happen up there one time, remember? With
yes.
Somebody coming up to us asking us if we would sign a petition. He's the president of the Florida Bar. So who better to ask than he? He's going to tell us how Floridians can involve themselves in the process of amending the Florida Constitution. Good morning, Michael Higer. What an honor to have you on our show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you both for having me on. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you.
Yeah, well, we are like kindergarten students compared to you with knowledge of this. I've often wondered why an amendment and not a bill. With that question alone, you probably already know that I don't know anything. So what would you say to me to explain that?
Right. So Florida's Constitution really is kind of like the overarching document that defines the rights of the people vis-a-vis the government and the government's obligations to each of us. The legislature goes through the legislative process, and it addresses what I would say really are the refinements and the day-to-day issues, all of which that emanate from that governing document. And that governing document, which is our Constitution, is what all of our laws have to comply with ultimately. And so if they don't pass constitutional muster, if they don't meet up to the standards of the Constitution, then of course the courts can find that a particular law is unconstitutional. But it is that Constitution that's really the governing document, and it's so critically important for all of us citizens, all of us voters, to tune in and be engaged in that process, because I'm sure, as we're going to talk a little bit about it, the process in terms of how that document, the Constitution, gets amended and whether it should be amended or tweaked at any point in time is really something that's a real significant exercise and something that should be very carefully studied and considered before making a change to that document. Unlike the laws of the state of Florida, which as you know, change all the time.
Right. Well, okay, help me out with this. I'm going to use as an example the raising of the minimum wage, because that was a more recent one. I was at the Hogtown Festival in Gainesville, and a lady came up and asked me to sign that petition. Okay, so let's say I'm in favor of raising the minimum wage in Florida, but I don't think it should be an amendment, but rather it should be a bill. How do what do I need to know to determine that? How do I know that it should be an amendment or should not be an amendment?
Yeah, that's a really tougher question, and I don't know that really for all of us that you need to kind of get down that far into the weeds in terms of, do I have to make a distinction between whether it should be a bill or an amendment. But I think what's important for us right now in terms of this Constitution revision process, because that's what's going on right now, and this only happens every 20 years, and it's only happened twice before in Florida's history. This is only the third time in the history of the state of Florida that we have gone through this process of amending our Constitution. And I think that would be probably important for your listeners to kind of understand how that process works.
Okay. And is it possible, I mean, do you have a book or something that we can look at so that we can, or maybe a website or something that helps us understand this?
Absolutely. So what the Florida Bar has done, and really the real critical role for the bar, is to just educate, inform, and engage the voters so that they have a place to go and they have information so that they can learn more about it. And so for your listeners, the place to go is protectfldemocracy.org. Let me do that again. Protectfldemocracy.org. And at that site, every single piece of information that a voter would need to know to be informed and educated about the process, all the potential proposals that are being considered, all the places where there are public hearings that are being conducted as we speak, including one not too far from the Gainesville-Ocala area. There's going to be one in Jacksonville on February 20th, I believe, so that they can go to that public hearing and have their voice heard about the particular proposal. All the information about the commissioners, which are the 37 men and women who are making these decisions, so that they can communicate directly with those folks and let them know how they feel about a particular proposal, everything that they want to know about the particular proposal so that they can understand what's the proposal really about. Go to Florida, go to protectfldemocracy.org.
Okay, protectfldemocracy.org. Well, that sounds like a really good resource. Are there any that we need to pay attention to right now that are coming up this November, or may or may not come up this November?
Right. So the CRC, the Constitutional Revision Commission, is considering and discussing proposals on a wide range of areas, issues that affect the balance of powers between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. They are considering proposals about the Declaration of Rights, education, elections, finance, tax, and so on. And really, instead of going through any particular proposal, really for the bar's perspective, what we're trying to do is just educate the public, the voters, so that they can get engaged on any of the issues that are important, that resonate particularly with them, without telling the voters, hey, this is the issue or that's the issue that you ought to be particularly interested in, because we're not a political organization. We're an organization that really provides and facilitates information so that people are just educated and in tune and can weigh in and make their voice heard.
Is it harder? Let's say we make a mistake. Let's say we put an amendment down in the Constitution and we all say, oh, gosh, I didn't see this coming. Let's get rid of it. Is it harder to get rid of an amendment than it would be a bill?
It absolutely is, right? So, again, that's this kind of governing document, and there are very few ways to really amend a Constitution. In fact, what happens here in this process, right, is that the proposals ultimately that will come out, if they come out, will be filed with the Secretary of State in May of this year. And we expect that there will be somewhere between a half a dozen or so proposals that the commissioners will file. And then what happens is the voters will vote on them in November during the general election. And it takes 60% of the voters to approve an amendment. And while there are other ways to amend the Constitution, so as you say, if they, quote, make a mistake or they want to amend something else, the process to do so has similar restrictions. That is that it's a very complicated process for amending the Constitution, and as you would expect it should be, right, because this is the governing document between the government and us.
And does it take more than one legislator to get an amendment to be placed on the ballot?
So there are 37 commissioners. It takes 22 votes of those commissioners to approve a particular proposal to be filed with the Secretary of State on May 10th.
Oh, okay.
Once it's placed on the ballot, it's going to take 60% of the voters to actually approve what those commissioners had agreed to.
In radio, we have an interesting circumstance because we'll have people who contact us and say, look, we want to pass this amendment, so we're going to buy a lot of advertising. And then you listen to their ads and you go, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to support that. And then you have another side that comes in and pays some money for some ads, and their ad is against it. And you listen to that and you say, oh my gosh, that makes sense. I don't think I'm going to vote for that. So we as voters are very much influenced by the very, very slick advertising campaigns that are either for or against an amendment. Does the website you gave us give us a way to look at it clearly without having somebody try to skew it one way or the other?
That's exactly the purpose, right? So the Florida Bar is a completely neutral, unbiased organization which only puts up a plain statement about what each of the proposals about, gives the voter 100% of the information so that the voter, and not the Florida Bar, and not a politician, and not anyone else,
I like that.
Ultimately is making the decision for themselves. What does that proposal actually mean so that they can fully and completely understand it, so that they're not swayed by one particular slick advertisement or another, so that they can independently make that decision. So all we do is provide them with complete, unbiased information so that they can make an independent decision as to how that proposed amendment will affect each of them.
The summary of the amendment on the actual ballot is usually shorter, considerably shorter than the actual amendment, and some of the wording might not exactly make it clear to somebody who hasn't looked at it until they got to the voting booth. It sounds like the website you're telling about will also give us that stuff before we get into the voting booth.
Exactly, and you have really hit the nail on the head, which is you don't want to, as a voter, for the first time, be walking into the ballot, looking at that short summary, and trying to make a decision about what that proposed amendment is about. And so for the Florida Bar, our whole mission is to make sure that the voter is prepared and informed and educated before they walk into the ballot so that they can make into the voting booth, so that they can make an independent, well-educated decision. Is that short summary really accurate in terms of what that proposal means to me, the voter, and know everything there is to know about that particular proposal and be very well informed? Because we're not going to tell and we're not going to suggest to any particular voter how they ought to vote on a particular proposal, but only how to be informed and educated so that they'll know what that particular proposal means to them.
Well, Michael, in addition to thanking you for coming on the air with us, I want to thank you for the information because I'm going to use that on this show. I'm going to be going to that site, and as we get closer to November, we'll be reading these things and discussing them with our listeners in detail so that at least this listenership will be prepared when they go to vote.
I thank you so much. I really believe in my heart and my soul there is no better resource for you and your listeners and the voters and citizens throughout the state to go to than protectfldemocracy.org.
I love that. Protectfldemocracy.org. Michael, that is awesome. I truly appreciate it. On behalf of our listeners, I'm sure they appreciated it. And like I said, it's show prep for me. I will be using that one for sure this year. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, and you all have a great day today.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Palm Garden wants to get to the heart of the matter. If you've been in the hospital as a cardiac patient, maybe you have a pacemaker or congestive heart failure or an arrhythmia, or perhaps you're a heart bypass patient, then consider Palm Garden as your rehab choice. With proven outcomes second to none, Palm Garden fixes broken hearts. Call today at 854-6262. That's 854-6262.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Gene Powell, Past Chamois. Gene and Debbie would like to thank you for another successful year of business. We want to wish everybody a safe, healthy, and prosperous 2018. In addition to our pasture mowing service, we also offer fence row spraying and stump grinding. Now is the perfect time to go ahead on weed control and to take care of those troublesome stumps. We are locally owned and operated, licensed and insured, and farm ready. Powell Gene, Gene at yahoo.com, 352-629-2440. Gene Powell, Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. Gene is a proud United States veteran.
Hello, may I speak to Ron DeMott, please?
Speaking.
Ron, this is Larry Whitler at WOC.